There's nothing like league. And this is the Betfred Super League. No! Got me here. It took a big chunk out of me. Bleeding. It's bleeding. Oh no, it's bleeding. The thing just ripped my ear off. What do you think?
Hello again and welcome along to the latest edition of Eddie and Stevo, the podcast. We're here supported by the title sponsors of just about everything in rugby league. It's Betfred, of course. Now, for the past 2 weeks, our old mate Stevo has been incommunicado, so I trust you have enjoyed the interviews with Lee Leopard's owner Derek Beaumont and Warrington's chief executive Carl Fitzpatrick. Thank you, by the way, for all of you who have sent in the feedback. Well, we're back to normal this week, as you can probably hear. Stevo is with us again with that good old giggle, so it's good to say hello and say just wondering how you are, old boy. How's things?
Oh, I'm fine. The one thing is that it amazes me, Eddie. Everybody seems to enjoy the podcast when I'm not on it.
I don't think that's the case at all. Look,
well.
let's get stuck in. Let's start talking about things. Been a long time since we've had your views. First of all, Stevo, Warrington, dare we say it? They're riding high at the top of the table. We spoke to Carl Fitzpatrick, as I say, last week. No talk, though, in the camp anywhere near the Halliwell-Jones Stadium of this being their year in 2023. It's not allowed. That phrase is not allowed. We can speculate, though, can't we? What do you think?
Yeah, of course we can. And I'll tell you what, a lot of the other clubs will be thinking it's not going to be easy to play the Warrington side. Look, Powell has got it sorted out because he knows that if you've got a power pack, then you've got the chance of controlling everything when it comes down to rugby league. And that is what he got. A lot of people raised their eyebrows when he got rid of quite a few of the players, the old players. That has given them the opportunity. Okay, he had to go overseas to make it a stronger team. But a lot of people who were saying, oh, we've got to get rid of Powell, he's from Yorkshire and all that sort of thing. He didn't do all that well. He knew what he was doing. And boy, those forwards are just absolutely blasting everything out. Though, a bit of bad news, isn't it?
There is a bit of bad news, yes. Thomas McKaylee, he's reported to be heading back home to Australia for family reasons. Now, he's been outstanding in his first 6 matches, an average of 85 metres gained per match, a few tries thrown in as well. Integral part of this new look, the biggest pack in Super League, according to Darryl Powell. His partner, Thomas's partner, can't settle. So he's on his way home. And the Gold Coast Titans, apparently, are the favourites to sign him.
Well, there's always sort of hang out and see what we can get. There's a lot of things happening in Australia as well. But the most important thing, Eddie, is IMG. How are the clubs going to react to what they are wanting?
Well, that is a big question. And it's starting to appear that the lower clubs, the likes of Batley, for instance, their chairman is not 100% convinced it's the way forward. And I've just been reading only today that the Keighley Cougars, now this is the club that originally missed out probably the most if you think back to 1996 when Super League was formed. They have said that they've got support from the politicians across different parties in their fight to vote IMG's proposals down. Now, obviously, the Super League clubs will probably accept IMG's proposals, I would have thought, but the other lower clubs, if I can call them that, they might have a bit of a say in all this, by the sound of things.
Well, it appears to me that IMG are trying to copy what occurred down under. They want to make sure that A, no promotion, B, no relegation. And that has been the case in Australia for quite some time. Now, during a period where it was into the 80s and 90s, there was a time when they had to get those clubs together that were not financially sound. West Tigers, West and Balmain Tigers, they had to merge. St. George, they had to merge with Illawarra. And they spread their wings, but they didn't allow them to come in straight away. They said, look, we need a team in Melbourne. We'll give you 3 years to sort it all out. Finances, make sure you've got the players, make sure you've got junior development, etc., and so forth. And they give them sort of open credit and say, like, if you can fit into what we want, finance, etc., ensure that you'll get a good crowd participation, then we will allow you to expand the NRL. And that's what they've been doing. And I just think to myself, IMG are trying to copy this.
You think so? You think they've looked at the blueprint in Australia? They've seen its work. I mean, they've now got 17 clubs down there, haven't they? With the Dolphins from Brisbane being the latest to join the party. But you think seriously that IMG have looked at it and said, right, that appears to be the way forward for rugby league. Why did we not try and adopt it up here? You think that?
I'm sure that IMG, they've said to themselves, well, you look down under. Okay, we know it's a lot more, shall we say, supported. Rugby league is a very, very popular sport in Australia. They don't have, shall we say, the negative side of things with soccer and cricket and things like that can overcome it, because the fans turn up in their thousands, especially last weekend. I mean, over 50,000 up in Brisbane. I mean, you can't beat that, can you? They've got everything right. But as I say, if you want to join, then make sure that you've got the finances and everything in order before you apply. And in a roundabout way, that's what IMG wants. Get away with relegation, get away with promotion. And we have that in Australia. In Australia, they have different gradings, they have different competitions. So if you want the likes of Dewsbury, Batley and Sheffield and all those others, let them fight for their own championship. Let them fight for their own grand final. They've done that in Australia. Everybody accepts it. But the most important thing, Eddie, is that those particular clubs, they provide the future stars for the NRL top clubs. In other words, they're doing themselves a favour. And most of the Australian clubs, they've got an alliance with the lower clubs, the ones that are in the lower division, and they help them financially. They help them to bring the youngsters through. And to me, that's the pathway of the future.
It seems like we're going back here, this conversation, we could have had it in 1996. You mentioned the dreaded word before, mergers. Yep. As soon as the word merger was announced and made public by Maurice Lindsay back in 1995, the year before the Super League was born, well, yeah, all the owners, all the chairmen, they all voted for the big money and they all voted for the mergers. They went back to their clubs and they were told in no uncertain terms, you can forget that. You can forget mergers. Warrington's not merging with Widnes. Hull isn't merging with Hull Kingston Rovers. And the business in, what was it, the heavy woolen area, that was thrown out as well. I mean, the moment that mergers, the moment that massive change like that is mentioned up here, the backs go up and the hands stay down.
Well, as I say, they will pay a fortune to get IMG to, shall we say, lay the paving stones for the future. And you can't tell me that they have not looked at the Australian system, and it works. And because we've got the 2 clubs and 3 clubs that join together, they took a big, deep breath. I mean, I can remember years and years ago, I'm saying, look at how many great players that have been produced up in Cumbria, or Cumberland as it was when I was playing. Now, if you, let's say, the Cumbria Cobras, and, you know, Barrow and Workington and Whitehaven. And I know everybody will be saying, oh, he's on it again about this, that, and the other. But that's the only way to get the future. Can you imagine anyone who lives up in Cumbria going down to Wembley to see Cumbria, Cobras, or call them whatever you want, cheaters, it doesn't matter. Because they look, everybody loves success. Forget about the past. And that's what had to happen in Australia, and that's what they've done.
And I understand that completely, but just by merging clubs and forming a new club in Cumbria isn't necessarily going to lead to the holy grail that you're talking about of taking the Cumbria, whoever they are, down to Wembley or to Old Trafford for a grand final, is it? It won't. It doesn't happen overnight, and people have to be patient.
No,
they're not patient. They're not patient.
I've just said, you know, in Australia they said, well, it's the only way we can survive. It's the only way we can do that. We've got to be realistic. And the people who run the NRL, they turned around to everybody and said, listen, we've got rumblings that they'd like to have a club up in Brisbane, the Brisbane Broncos. But they gave them 3 years to get themselves sorted out financially, get the junior development, blah, blah, blah. Everyone was cock-a-hoop. I mean, we've got the Dolphins now. We've spread our wings, but we've done it by saying you have to make sure you can run your company. It's like any business. And the Australians have got a very good business, I can assure you.
They have. And of course, the business plan of IMG is to try and put the game on a more even footing. If you think about it, you know, the Catalan Dragons, when they first came in, I think they got a 2 or 3 year moratorium where even though they finished bottom of the table, they weren't relegated and they were given the time to develop. And look what's happened to them now. You've also got Toulouse knocking on the door. A rugby league website, Stevo, called Rugby League Live crunched all the numbers based on IMG's proposal at the moment. And right now, 11 of the 12 Super League clubs would be safe. The only one that's in danger, because it's no longer about on the field of play, it's about everything else, the infrastructure around the club. The only one that would not be in the Super League as the numbers are crunched now is Leigh. They would be replaced by Toulouse. Now, I remember, and you remember, when Toulouse were in the competition, a whole host of Super League clubs were moaning like hell about 2 French clubs being in there.
Well, not only that, they were moaning about, they said, oh, we have to travel to France. Come on. I've worked it out. Sydney to Brisbane, 565 miles, Eddie. Sydney to Melbourne, 545 miles. And what about this one? Melbourne, when they have to go to Townsville, 1,536 miles they've got to travel. Are they complaining? No.
No, they're not. Well, it is the 19th of next month, apparently, the D-Day, April the 19th. All the 36 clubs are going to get together and vote on all of this. And I think that and a few other bits and pieces will also be on the agenda and on the mind of Tony Sutton, the man who's been named now as the new Chief Executive Officer of the Rugby Football League. He succeeds Ralph Rimmer in the role. He was appointed a week or two ago. Tony's been doing the job since December when Ralph stepped down. This is the third time the game was appointed from within. Reportedly, candidates from all over the world and from other sports were considered. Tony got the nod. I'm sure he'll do a great job, but people now are wondering if it's jobs for the boys and an opportunity for fresh blood to move in has been missed.
What he must do is make sure that he has a voice and not that leaving IMG to take control. The Aussies hardly copy anything from the UK.
I know.
The one thing they have copied is a Magic Weekend. Ticket sales are just going out the window. Now, they've realised what a great coup that is. Wonderful. And probably next year, they'll take it down to Melbourne. And probably the year after that, they'll take it up to Townsville. And who knows? They might try again to go right to Western Australia to Perth, which they tried in the early days. It didn't succeed. But if you have a sort of a situation to take it to Perth, yeah, it would be difficult because we're talking about a four-hour flight. So maybe they're out of the equation. But, you know, 1.5 hour flight from Brisbane down to Melbourne and all that sort of thing, it can be done, and it has been proven. Why do IMG are thinking to get rid of what perhaps has been one of the success stories of Super League?
Now, I've crunched my own numbers. I mean, as you know, I'm not very good at maths, Stevo, but 53,517 people turned out to our matches this last weekend. The crowds are flocking to the games. Well, nothing compared to Australia, as we have mentioned a little earlier on. But the Magic Weekend, if you believe the figures, 70,000 plus show up in a non-heartland city to watch all 6 games. And I think I'm right that the city that hosts the Magic Weekend actually pays money into the coffers of the RFL for taking it there. I might be way off beam there, but I believe that is the case.
It's a little bit like in the olden days. It didn't matter who got to Wembley. Didn't matter which of the teams. It was the weekend out. Or on most occasions, very, very early in the piece, it was just a one-day occurrence. They go down on the old Charabang and get down there and drink themselves silly, watch the game, and be driven back. Now we're a little bit more exclusive, but it's the thought of, I want to go to Wembley. Obviously, I want to play there if you can, and obviously, if I can't, then I'll go and support it. It's giving it that magic moment. We called it magic. Why get rid of it? It's madness.
It is the one thing, well, a couple of things about the IMG proposal. One, that I think they're taking away the emphasis on on-field performance. That doesn't seem to matter quite so much as the match day experience, how big their fan base is, where their reach is. Obviously, the money will come into it. But that, and then the Magic Weekend going, I'm left scratching my head. I am about those two things in particular.
Well, if someone wants to take over a business, etc., and so forth, you look at the fact, what's been most successful? What has coined in the money? And I just can't believe that people who are running IMG, who are supposed to be the guidelines of our future, can just say, oh, we don't want it. If the Australian did exactly the same thing, they would back a Newcastle team. And I'm talking about back them with money. Make sure that they get there. We know it's difficult, Eddie, because they're mad soccer up there. We understand that. But if you give them time, people will start to come. Remember, we play in the summer. So what do the soccer teams do, soccer supporters do when, well, we'll go and watch Newcastle Rugby League. I can remember years and years ago when the London Broncos, they were playing at Charlton, and they were just on the verge of making a season ticket so you could watch both.
Yeah.
Right? They were just about to launch it, and well, below me, what happened? Charlton, they got promoted to the top tier. And of course, the top tier said, you can't have 2 teams playing on that pitch. So sadly, they had to go elsewhere. But that's the type of thing that we have to be looking at. Give them the opportunity. Trouble is, where are we going to get the money from? That's our biggest problem.
Yes, it is. Absolutely. And again, we keep harping on about this on the podcast. The TV deal has yet to be announced. But let's hope that we get bumper crowds at Super League matches this weekend. I think the highlight, I mean, funny enough, we're talking about Magic Weekend, we're talking about mergers, we're talking about clubs getting together and having a bash. The highlight of this weekend is the Battle of the Borough. That's how it's being billed, Leeds against Wigan. You could throw a blanket over 2 towns that close to each other. Adrian Lamb going up against his former club, of course, and his Lee Leopards are going well. It's at the Lee Sports Village too. They're talking about a sellout. And you know what, Stevo? The Lee Leopards, they've got a chance. They have.
Yeah, of course they have. They've proven very, very strong indeed. It's a little bit like the Dolphins in Australia. Everyone thought that they wouldn't win a game. A lot of people thought the same thing. And over here in the UK, look, there's always an opportunity to just shock the top teams. They've done it down under, and they've done it up there, and fair play to them.
Very much so. And it's a big day, this, for Adrian Lamb, going up against Wigan. He was shown the door a couple of years ago. This is his first time back facing them. And it'll be a great night. It's on the television as well. It'll be fantastic. And I believe they've got a chance. I do.
Yeah,
I believe they have.
I'm looking forward to it. But I just know underneath that heart that's beating away, you've got that Warrington feeling, Eddie. I know you want them. I know. What is it? 1955 was the last time that they won the league title. That's a long time. Because they're a good side. They are a very, very good side.
But they are at the moment, there's no doubt about it. And they're up against a former coach of theirs as well, Tony Smith, this weekend. He takes Hull to Warrington. Now, Hull have lost 4 in a row after 2 wins in a row at the start. Tony Smith's confident he'll turn the ship around, but they conceded 3 tries to Lee. Here we go again. 3 tries to Lee in the opening 12 minutes last weekend. And Warrington, as you say, in rampant form.
Yeah, and they've got the 2 halfbacks working wonderful. I mean, you've got to take into consideration that when 2 halfbacks are controlling the game, there's only one thing that you say, boy, that pack is giving them the opportunity. You get that go forward, and you get the opposition that are having to go backwards nearly all the time. The 2 halfbacks from Warrington, they are just zimming. They are just absolutely sensational. And that's what you need. And that's what Powell did. Powell knew deep down. He did it at Castleford. Big, strong forwards. Get into them. And then let the 3 quarters run riots. And that's what you can do. Quick play the ball, away you go.
Indeed. And he knew when he walked through the door, Carl told us this last week, he knew when he walked through the door and he told the board of directors and the owners, this is a rebuilding job. And it's probably been built a little bit quicker than even he thought. But let's see what happens this weekend when Tony Smith's Hull comes to town. I've got some really tragic news now, Stevo. Bryn Hargreaves. He went missing in America last January, I think it was, at the dawn of 2022. Well, his body has now been found. Such a sad piece of news, this. A man, he was only 36. He was with St Helens, Wigan, Bradford in his playing career. He won a World Club crown in 2007, the Challenge Cup with Saints 2008. We still don't know the ins and outs, but this is such a tragic story.
Yeah, it sure is, and rest in peace, because it's such a situation whereby we remember a lot of the great players, but sometimes we forget about those that were in the engine room, as we call it. And yes, a very, very sad moment for rugby league.
Deepest sympathy to his family, obviously, and to all his friends.
You've heard of this wonderful player that's going to rugby union in Australia, and Sawali.
Yeah, you talked about him all last year, didn't you?
Yeah,
you talked about him all last year.
He's a fantastic player. He's only 19, but he has signed for the 2025 season on a 3-year contract that is nearly $6 million Australian dollars.
Why is he going then?
I wonder why.
$6 million?
I've worked it out. It's somewhere around about £900,000 per year. I remember signing on for Dewsbury and I got 50 quid. And I thought that I was the bee's knees. And it just shows you the impact that they're having now. And rugby union, Eddie Jones, he's gone back. He's gone back. All right. They got rid of him from England, but the Aussies were quite happy to make sure that he got on board again. And he doesn't mind a bob or two, Eddie. He doesn't mind saying a few words, but quite a few people have gone really AWOL about the signing on. In fact, Gus Gould is slammed the defection to union. He said, I don't love rugby union, never watch it. I've no interest in it whatsoever. And he made it quite clear. He said, look, why wait until after the end of the 2024 season for him to go? He should go now. Roosters coach Trent Robinson has branded it a ridiculous comment. Gould says, well, go now. don't let the door hit your arse. which I think is a polite way of saying, like, get through it very, very quickly indeed.
Yeah, get shut and gone. I don't think he will. I'm sure he won't. I'm sure he won't go. He'd love to at £900,000 a season. I'm sure he'd love to be going.
Oh, it's just, but NRL boss Peter Vlandy, he said, look, I understand him going for the money. He said, but he'll only get the ball about a quarter of what he does in rugby league. He'll get 3 times the amount of money he can get. And after a while, he'll get bored and someone will buy him back into rugby league. Now, that's a way to make a bob or two, Eddie.
Just a bit. I've just been thinking, do you ever think that you were born too early? Would you not like to have been born and been playing a little bit later and playing right now on that sort of money? Because I know you like the coin. I know this from past experience.
How do you know that?
I just know that you do. You like a few bob. You like a nice glass of wine. You like nice
listen,
places.
Eddie, I'm not knocking anybody because people say to me, why did he go and play in Australia? One thing, money.
The dosh, yeah, I know.
I mean, look, my first 80 minutes playing for Penrith, I earned more in 80 minutes than I did all my career playing for Dewsbury. One game. And I get people from Dewsbury still saying, hey, lad, I don't know why you went to Australia. So, listen, I'm not criticising the fact that this young kid, who is a wonderful, wonderful player, but a lot of people don't understand that in his junior development, when he was going through university and school, he played rugby union at a high level.
There you go. There you go.
Mitchell Pearce, Catalan's player, West Tigers, they want him to come back to Oz ASAP.
Another £900,000 a year is on the line from Australia. Good. Well, look, I'm glad that you're back. I'm glad that we're chatting away once again, and we'll do exactly the same next week. Always good to catch up. Some great stuff you've given us today. Some great views, and fingers crossed when IMG and the game get together. They do get together and they'll all be singing off the same hymn sheet and talking the talk and walking the walk.
Before you go, I'd just like to ask everyone connected with rugby league in England and France, of course, let's give them the opportunity. Let's not just remember we were born in 1895. We've got to look towards the future.
Great talking to you, Stevo. Talk to you next week.
Be good, top man.